So, a good day to everyone. Along with my group mates, we are here to discuss all about knowledge management in practice, wherein we explain how knowledge is becoming a significant asset on helping certain companies and organizations to develop. To start, let us all discuss about knowledge sharing. As you can see, knowledge sharing talks about how information is being disseminated and shared within a company right after it has been captured and codified. At the very start of the process of knowledge sharing, we can see here that a particular organization must first gather or collect information from various sources. With that, they will be able to access those gathered information before letting it be shared throughout the whole organization. The information will be then spread out through those members of the company for it to be utilized. After that, the information will be then put into certain context that is related to the main goal of that organization in order to determine the best way to apply that knowledge to the company. Because of the newly applied knowledge, the organization will now be able to identify their next step in terms of knowledge gathering or knowledge capture, which repeats the whole process from the start. Next, we have the social nature of knowledge. According to McDermott in 2009, in order for us to practice effective knowledge management, we must first treat knowledge as something that is made by us people together. Whenever we are having a conversation or interaction with other people, there is a production of or sharing of knowledge. This is because as we talk or communicate with others, there is always a tendency that ideas are being created, shared, or even changed depending on the context and topic of your conversation. Also, according to Huisman and Dewitt in 2002, the best way for an organization to be able to have value, all members must agree on how to utilize and share their intellectual assets. As long there is as long there is unity when it comes to the application of knowledge inside an organization, there is a high tendency that there will be no longer internal problems in their organization in the future. Next, we have knowledge networks. In large organizations or companies, it's hard for them to keep on sharing knowledge and ideas in the traditional way, such as one-on-one conversations in the hallway, due to the huge number of employees. But because of technology, it provided employees to create and share knowledge whenever they have the same interests, problems, or responsibilities that can be done through email groups, discussion groups, and other way communication and interactions that are done virtually. This is called a knowledge network, and one of them is called COP or Communities of Practice, which is considered as a knowledge network that pertains to a group of people who share a common concern, a set of problems, or an interest in a topic who come together to fulfill both individual and group goals. It is often focused on sharing best practices and creating knowledge within the organization. And since we are talking about knowledge networks, according to Pew and Prusak, knowledge networks have 8 key aspects that span the strategic, structural, and tactical levels of an organization. So for the first one, we have the leader's theory of change. It pertains to the initial idea of knowledge network and how members of a specific group will be affected in terms of their overall determination in solving a specific problem. Next, we have objective, outcomes, and purpose. This refers to the main objectives of the knowledge network in an organization as well as its overall purpose. This gives the group an idea of what will be the outcome in creating such knowledge network in their organization. Next, we have role of expertise and experimental learning. Among the group of employees, there will be always someone who are skillful at certain aspects which can consider him or her as an expert. Aside from that, he or she must also be able to admit his lackingness in other aspects of the organization in order for him or her to try out new things that will benefit the knowledge network or the whole organization itself. For the fourth one, we have inclusion and participation. This talks about the diversity of the members and their level of comfortability with other members who have different personalities, opinions, behaviors, and other more work traits. Next, we have operating model. This pertains simply our responsibility of leaders and group members that are being implemented in the knowledge network. Next, we have structures and infrastructures. This is how meetings are being set up, whether they are done virtually or face to face depending on the leader's and group members' preference. For the next one, we have facilitation and social norm development, which talks about how the knowledge network will run throughout the whole timeline of the organization in terms of the style, tone, and behavior of the group members. For the last one, we have measurement, feedback, and incentives. This pertains to how knowledge network is being evaluated whether the members have actually collected some significant data. This also talks about what kind of incentives they will get for participating and helping the organization to improve. And now, for the knowledge sharing communities, this will be discussed by Mr. Molina.
We will now go to the knowledge sharing communities. The German sociologist Ferdinand Tönnies compared the more direct, total, and important interactions in a community using the two basic types of human will. First, the essential will, which is the underlying, organic, or instinctual driving force, and the arbitrary will, which is deliberate, goal-oriented, and focused on the future. Tönnies also distinguished two types of social groupings. He used the word Gemeinschaft, often translated as community, and the word Gesellschaft, often translated as society. Gemeinschaft may be exemplified historically by a family or a neighborhood in a pre-modern society. Gesellschaft is explained by a joint stock company or state in a modern society. Groupings formed around an essential will are called Gemeinschaft, while the groupings formed around the arbitrary will are called Gesellschaft. These types of community that are subjects for knowledge sharing also uses the media as a medium of sharing information. Before, they used the print media before the internet. But an American sociologist, Anselm Strauss, wrote that internet communities are social worlds even internet is not yet existing, and it became true. From before, where print media reigns and textual contents are being shared, now at the present, where social media or internet reigns, digital contents are already being shared. We will now go to the types of communities. As you can see in this chart, this is how members of community works. People have personal and common goal in an organization or company. They must have one perspective in achieving one outcome. Each members also have commitment, committed to tasks and obligation to fulfill the COP goals. And lastly, the virtual workplace, where members can share, receive, and generate data to each other. There are many different kinds of COPs, and most of the time, they are defined by what they have in common. First, a career like engineering, law, or medicine, a function or procedure associated with a workplace such as manufacturing, distribution, marketing, sales, or customer service, a persistent nagging issue inside a process or function, a subject such as technology, retention of information, or innovation, and lastly, an industry like the automobile, finance, or healthcare sector. A community of practice is different from other groups like work teams of project groups. Many online groups are called communities of interest because anyone can join as long as they share an interest in something like a hobby. A community of practice is different from other groups like work teams or project groups. Many online groups are called communities of interest because anyone can join as long as they share an interest in something like a hobby. Right now, it is very common in different social media platforms. That's why there are groups, especially in Facebook, where hobbyists and enthusiasts can also discuss regarding on a certain hobby by the help of these groups. An individual can receive a new knowledge coming from the experience of other people in the group. Lastly, the obstacles to knowledge sharing. The most important part of any knowledge management system is keeping the link between the knowledge and the people who know about it. There are some risks when it comes to sharing knowledge because other people look at gaining knowledge as gaining power as well. That's why there is some secret information when it comes to business or organization. The best way to deal with problems is to change the reward and punishment systems that are already in place. Now, regarding with this information, how we will push and encourage people to share their knowledge and stop them from keeping it only to themselves. We should stop rewarding them and give them merits for them to find reason to share their knowledge. The culture and climate of an organization can either help or hurt the sharing of knowledge. Well, before sharing knowledges, the company must generate a culture that is open and accepting knowledge, because some people find it offensive when someone is sharing knowledge to them. But after all, everyone in communities must be open in sharing knowledge, because this will help us to know more about different things. Now, for the next topic, this will be discussed by Mr. Balane.
Organizational learning and social capital. Human capital in knowledge, skills, and experience is a person needs to be more productive in a job or organization. But according to the sociologists like Coleman, Granovetter, and Swedberg, says that traits are not enough. Why people become more successful? Personal relationships build trust, expectation, and rules that affect people's actions and thus in organization. They called it social capital, why people and how people interact with an organization. According to Nahapiet and Gosal, they define it as the sum of the actual and potential resources embedded in, available through, and derived from the network of relationships that an individual or social unit has. It is a person's network and assets that use as social capital. Even though it's still developing, it can also use in business, government, and other organizations that will help social capital. Knowledge sharing communities are the main source of capital because they allow people to make connections to other people. However, social capital has both two sides, the good and the bad, by the relationship between people and behavior within and between organizations. Strategic implications of knowledge sharing. There are 7 strategically important benefits of knowledge sharing. 1. Connecting professionals across several platforms and geographical locations. 2. Normalization of professional procedures. 3. Avoiding errors. 4. Utilization of best practices. 5. Shortening the time required to get access to talent. 6. Reputation building. And lastly, accepting responsibility for managing strategic capabilities. The reason why people go to work, solve problems, learning new skills, improving their work and methods, talk about what's new in the field because of the knowledge sharing. People's shared experience, skills, and expertise is a type of knowledge that can be passed on to others. It can be others' form of education and training, but sharing this type of expertise, especially in groups, are need to have the same background and same language. Technology like email, phone, or websites will be also necessary. Practical implication of knowledge sharing. Practical implication is a part of the management wherein organizations, employees need to give them salaries, giving their time to do their roles and responsibilities that are related in sharing of knowledge. Like in organization or inside of a office, people also need a recreational time to have a conversation, to talk about learning new skills, achieving their goals, showing their styles, to have more connections through people. It is important to remember that all of these connections and conversations are public so they can last for a long time. It's important that all interactions for sharing knowledge stay professional.